So let's say you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts number 103, Bodie's Babel Bunk, or Babel Bunk, whatever, I don't care. Vishanti cares, but I don't. It's true. So, in case you have not been keeping up with this for this series, we are taking a look at Bodie Hodge's book about the Tower of Babel and how it apparently explains modern linguistics, which is a pretty tall order. And so we've skipped over a lot of it. Part of the reason for that is it probably wouldn't fall under fair use if I showed you literally every word of his entire book and went through it. So that would be iffy. And then the other reason is there's a lot of it I just don't care about, right? Like, Bodie goes through this whole chapter about, like, what did the Tower of Babel look like? And I just don't care. He says it looks like a ziggurat, which is like, yeah, okay, that's probably what was being pictured by the authors, and what the story is based on is the story of a ziggurat. Okay, cool. So I don't have, like...
Then he fills it with, like, a million pictures of pyramids.
Yeah, which are not the same thing. Yeah, it's very strange, but overall, I don't super care about that section. Or he has a whole section about, like, how to pronounce it. We just skip that, right? Like, it's not... There's nothing of substance that I'm going to disagree with. Like, he sure probably does some stupid things in there, because he does stupid things throughout the book. But I just don't care. Like, if you call it Babel or Bavel or Babel or Bubble, I don't really care. Like, whatever. We're all talking about the same alleged structure and the same story from Genesis. So,
I'm gonna remember that the next time people mispronounce Klingon.
Okay.
Somebody says more volume on Dr. Kep.
More volume on Kip. Okay, I will turn you up.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we are now at the part where Bodie is about to tell us what the language families are. But before we do that, I do have a few things. One, I'm going to keep a drink counter going, but I am currently not drinking alcohol. That is because I am not feeling super well, and usually alcohol makes that worse. So I am just not going to drink alcohol today, even though I suspect I will regret that decision after like a half an hour worth of reading Bodie Hodge. Yeah. So, Bodie Hodge, you are one of several reasons I drink.
I am not drinking anything today because I've already had a lot of coffee this morning, and if I continue to drink anything, then I'll have to get up like every 20 minutes to pee.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's
coffee do be a diuretic like that.
It do be.
Mm-hmm.
It do be. It made so I don't know, guys. I had an adventure yesterday. I drove 970 kilometers over the spine of the North American continent to get to my secret underground lair, which happens to be located in my brother's basement.
Is there a T-Rex skeleton there?
Yes.
Okay, well then you're on the Batman level, so that's good.
Okay, yes. But I have to tell a story because, like, I stopped yesterday, not on the spine, but I stopped before the spine on the Trans-Canada Highway at a place called the Rogers Pass Summit, which is a National Historic Site, because it is the highest point on both the Trans-Canada Highway, the highway that crosses our entire home and native land, and it's also the highest point on the railroad, which was there first. So I stopped there to snap a selfie, and I actually posted it on Twitter. But because I'm kind of nerdy like that, it's my favorite drive in the whole world. Not that I've done that many, but it's I did it fast. I left at 5 a.m. Pacific time, and I arrived here at my brother's house at 4:15 p.m. Mountain time. So what is that? 10 hours, 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was like from like 5 in the morning till 9. I was absolutely flying. Yeah, so I stopped at the Rogers Pass Summit, and there is always a shit ton of snow at the Rogers Pass Summit. And I parked and I took my picture and I got back into my car and I was parked right beside like a Parks Canada vehicle. And the park ranger walked over to my car and asked me to roll down my window. And he asked me, he said, "Are you going skiing today?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well," he said, "you might want to move." He says, "You can go like 200 meters up the road. There's another place to park." He said, "Because that shelf up there," and he pointed up at the mountain in front of us. He said, "That shelf right there is about to come down any minute." So, yeah, and I asked him, I was like, I'm like, do I have 5 minutes? And he looked at it and he looked back at me and he said, "Yeah, that's probably fine." So, but I'm happy to report that I did not get buried in my car in an avalanche yesterday when I stopped at the Rogers Pass Summit.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be hard for you to be here if you were stuck in an avalanche.
Well, maybe. I mean, they could have dug me out. It feels like the people at the Rogers Pass Summit have some experience.
Or maybe the
with
avalanche
this.
would just have okay Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's the avalanche for the Wi-Fi password.
yeah.
All right. So we also have one update on Carmen. So in case you were wondering, guys, the fundraiser is still going. We are at 78% as of last I checked. So if you are interested in helping with Carmen's vet bills, that is the dog that is the basis for the small dog emoji, then I will post the link. Please feel free to toss in even $5 or $10 or something. It'll help. We found a few things. One was, you might have noticed that we were waiting for a very long time on the cancer test results. That is because they just didn't run them. So we had to call and ask. And they were like, "Oh, that fell through the cracks." So we were like, "Okay, well, can you run them now?" Yeah, so they did that. And then it turns out the results were inconclusive because there was too much blood on the slides. So what it looks like we're going to do is when she has a follow-up appointment, we're going to see if there's still suspicious looking tissue or if it's shrunk or what. And assuming it still seems suspicious, there will probably be a biopsy, which will almost certainly not have that problem. And hopefully they actually examine the biopsy rather than just, not doing that, which would be great. So, but other than that, she is healing very well. She has just finished her antibiotics and anti-inflammatory meds today. So she's off her meds. She's still got probably another week or so in the cone, so that she doesn't, give herself an infection. But she is currently alert and active and running around and acting, for the most part, like her regular self. So she is feeling pretty much all the way better. Not quite, but very close. And so I want to thank everyone who has helped out with the fundraisers that we ran on the channel or donated directly to the GoFundMe. You guys have been amazing because, as you can see on the vet bill that is linked in the fundraiser, it was a hefty one because we had to go to an emergency vet. So, let's see. Vadim Marchenko says, by the way, is it spelled Nowakian with a CH or Nowakian with an HK? CH. Is how that would be.
It would be a cat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a Chet, which is not a thing.
No.
Don't say Chet.
It's not a thing.
All right.
Romanized Semitic languages using the Latin alphabet is just
Well, it's not that bad if you know what you're talking about.
wow.
Like, if you're actually familiar with how romanization schemes works for like Semitic languages, it's not that bad. But the problem is,
it's also
no one does.
No, and this is forever just an annoyance to me. It's not that difficult for people to know what the letter H with the little dot under it means.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yep.
Thank
Right?
you.
Yep.
Same with
That
the
is
same
my
with the Tsade.
preferred-
That's
Yeah.
By the way, that's how the Hebrew is typographically represented in my book.
Thank you, Kip.
So, but I've limited it to chet and sade, and I'm using the glottal stops for aleph and ayin, but everything else, like I the sheen.
You're not
It's
going
still
with the
SH,
almost
so.
certain original voiced pharyngeal fricative for Ian.
No, I'm not.
The Yemenis are
Uh,
going to be
it's-
angry at you.
I know.
You know what? That is funny because there are some Sephardi dialects that still preserve like that original sound, and it's
That's
so
awesome.
funny. Like it threw me off when I heard like the new sock the first time because I was like, why are they saying "ga"?
Look,
And I did because I couldn't
I
distinguish it at first.
have absolutely no
that
reason to have like a say in this, but my vote is for voiced pharyngeal fricative because I like Arabic, and Arabic retains that in basically
Yeah.
every form.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now this makes me suddenly very curious. This just popped into my head. I don't know if you guys are aware. Vishanti had the pleasure to meet Stephen Nelson when we were at SBL. Stephen Nelson is the inventor of Cross Bible, which is it's already a really terrific Bible platform, and I think if he manages to do everything he wants to do with it, it's going to be amazing. So everyone should check out Cross Bible. But Stephen Nelson has been for months now diligently working on a video presentation, thorough refutation of Amon Hillman's absolute nonsense about not just about his understanding, his beliefs about the Greek Septuagint, but just about his generally very sloppy understanding of the Greek language, I think.
Yeah.
But now this raises an interesting question in my head, and I want to go check it out to see what's going on with the way the Septuagint handles the ions. Now I'm really curious, and I'm also interested to know what an explanation from someone like Amon Hillman would be for, because I'm almost certain most of the time they're just transliterating names with iron with gimel.
I mean,
And I wonder if
this. Oh, sorry.
no, it just I'm not entirely. I mean, they could do it other ways. They certainly could, but yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm intrigued.
In the book of Joshua, the Septuagint just uses Jesus for Joshua. Literally, just Jesus.
Yeah, right.
So it just
It is.
ignores the iron
Yeah.
right there. They're just like,
No.
who cares?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it ignores a lot of things there, but
Yeah, and also fits it into a Greek declension paradigm, so that it's easier to write.
yes, of course. Then
which-
you can to do your constructs and your datives then too. It
Yeah.
makes, yeah.
Yeah, whenever
So-
you get because sometimes you get nouns in
Not
Greek
constructs,
that are.
genitives. Sorry,
I know what you meant.
I'm mixing my languages.
Look,
up.
it's like a genitive, but like reversed, because you're marking the opposite. Yeah,
the opposite word. Yes, it's
Mhm.
true. So yeah,
they're expressing the
but
same
like-
basic idea.
but like Gomorrah, right? We call it Gomorrah because of the Septuagint,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
because of the New Testament
I
as
think-
well mentions.
I think what it comes
So
down to
Norman.
is the ayin is treated irregularly by the translators of the Septuagint. They don't have a single
hard
rule.
to. So this is the way this works, right? It's hard to reverse engineer this in the other direction. If the text was originally written in Greek, then why the hell
Right.
are Hebrew translators so inconsistent in their handling of certain
Mhm.
words
Yeah.
and certain occurrences of the
Ins-
Gimel,
instead, the
or something like Jesus. Why on earth would they revert that to something like Yehoshua?
right, like that's if you wanted to
makes
transliterate
no
Jesus
sense.
into Hebrew, you could do it pretty easily. All those
Oh,
sounds occur
yes.
in Hebrew. You don't need to
Yes.
add in extra sounds that aren't in the Greek.
You do not.
All right, but we have been
Anyways.
delaying getting onto Bodie Hodge for a good 15 minutes now, so I'm going to read the super chats that have come in, and then we're going to start reading some Bodie Hodge,
I'm
unfortunately.
sorry, everyone.
Ben Thick Tunicate for 10 pounds says, I know the new year isn't for a few days, but, and then I'm supposed to sing this, and I am not only not feeling well, but I'm not even sure what the tune is supposed to be. Vishanti, do you know the tune that this is supposed to be?
Let me scroll up
Okay.
to Bent Tunicate.
I can also just paste it in our internal chat.
Oh, sorry. What are we doing in our internal chat?
Oh, I'm just sending the lyrics that Ben Thick Tunicate has sent.
Oh,
Oh, I think that's Auld Lang Syne.
Oh, okay.
do we?
Okay, so like, and here's a hand, my trusty friend, with you through thick and thin. We'll take a right goodwill draft. Sorry. For AIG are a bag of dicks, and we'll take a drink for it. Thank you very much. Ruchina Polydactyl Jesus Keller, and by the way, yeah, that was my horrible singing while sick. So sorry about that, everybody.
That wasn't bad
Thanks.
for a dinosaur.
For a dinosaur who's not feeling very well. Ruchina Polydactyl Jesus Keller for $4.99 says, ever close your eyes and just see mounds of unidentifiable flesh wriggling around? Happy last react show of 2024. I should not answer that question. Fade to Grey, don't build the Tower of Bubble Bobble, who's been a member for 31 months, says, I was summoned and AIG is a bag of dicks. Thank you very much. All right, so who would like to start us off with root languages from Babel?
I can start.
Okay.
So, root languages from Babel are in the ballpark of language families today. So, where did all those languages come from? I think I probably I overuse commas, but I certainly would have put a comma there.
Yeah, there should have been.
Linguists recognize that most languages have similarities to other languages. Can I just, if I had a gun, could I just point it at my head and blow my brains out right now?
No, because
Like,
that'll
is
get me
that the
demonetized so quickly.
Is that the most
Yeah,
on
what
the
are you,
nose
Bud Dwyer?
statement ever written?
I mean,
God.
look, it's very obvious, but you gotta remember who his target audience is. His
Fair
target audience
enough.
are people who don't know that linguists think that there are language families, right? Like,
Yes.
they're
fair
also
enough.
people who are
They're all operating on the belief that these are all impossible, unrelated puzzles that
Mhm.
yeah.
These
okay.
are people who will look at the King James version of the Bible. Some of them who look at the King James version of the Bible and say, "Well, if it was good enough for Jesus and Paul, it's good enough for me."
Sorry.
I like
Anonymous.
Anonymous Pie in
Yes,
the chat says,
thank you.
Bodie, what is a tautology, Hodge?
All right, I'm continuing. Related languages belong to what are called language families. Shall I do this? I'll do this in my best now
to a
disgraced
5-year-old.
Egyptologist David A. Falk.
Oh, goodness.
Related languages are what are called language families.
Oh, no.
That is way
These
too
original
accurate.
language families resulted from God's confusion of the language at Babel. You know, that could be read a couple of different ways, couldn't it?
Mhm.
Since that time, I kind of am now into reading God going, God damn it, what the fuck? So anyways, since that time, the original language families, everyone, language families have grown and changed into the abundant number of languages today. Is everyone just sufficiently annoyed by that? Should I stop
I'm
doing
clipping
that
this.
now? I'm not wrong though, am I? I
You're
mean,
not
if
wrong.
Didn't say you
I'm
were
not
wrong.
wrong. Okay, so here are the language families: Noach, Shem, Arpachshad, Salah, and Aver. So, by the way, this is Genesis 10, right?
Mhm.
Which is very interesting because this, I'm not looking at the text right now, but I believe that this portion of that combined genealogy in the Table of Nations, I believe this is what most scholars would identify as the priestly portion of that genealogy.
Okay.
That didn't mean anything to anyone.
Well,
so
do you want me to
it's
continue
It meant
on, or do
something
you
to
want to
me
keep
'cause
going?
I know about the documentary hypothesis, but
I can continue.
Okay.
All right. Noah's great great grandson Aver fathered Peleg. I've learned that Peleg was named after continental drift. This is true, right?
Uh-huh.
I've heard this. Yes.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
definitely true. Also, real quick, Brian
That's-
Finished Journey for $6.66 says, Hail Nero, Hail Daps, Vish, and Dr. Kill, and Hail Non-Linguists. Did the vet get their protocols from the VA? Yeah,
no kidding.
it does kind of seem like that.
Ah.
But thank you very much, Brian Finished Journey.
Peleg was named
Thank
after
you.
melting ice caps.
Yeah, lots of things, really. Because in his day, the land was divided.
Yes.
Couldn't possibly mean that was when they were imagining the division of the
We
portions of the
really-
land among the sons of God. That's not an option available to us. It has to mean something much
we really had to imagine this was the best they could do in the middle of an apocalyptic meltdown.
Hmm.
Right. So Peleg, Aber fathered Peleg
more. Mhm.
when the events at Babel took place. Oh,
That's
So,
not in the text.
does that mean then that all the events at Babel? Wait, how does that work?
Okay, so
Because
here's his
wasn't-
idea.
Okay.
So, in the time of Peleg, the land was divided, which is
Mhm.
that's a statement
Oh.
from the Bible. So what he's imagining
Yes.
is the reason that the lands were divided in the time of Peleg is because they were divided after the confusion of the
At
language along
Babel.
linguistics lines, and Peleg was
Got
alive
it.
for it to see the land divided.
So he's taking he's got a different who are the guys who like the continental drift and melting ice caps idea? Who is that
So
for Peleg?
there aren't too many left who like
Kent
the Kent Hovind I think is okay with the
Okay.
the melt with that. AIG, which used to include Bodie Hodge, although he's moved on since then. He's now he's got his own thing going on.
But he wrote this when he was at AIG.
Yeah. AIG generally takes the position that there was an ice age after the flood, and that the continents had gone to about their current configuration by the time the flood was ending. Basically
that was
by the time.
fast.
No, yeah. It's actually fast enough that if you do the math, just the energy it would take to move the continents that much in the space of a year would release several times more energy than it would take to boil off the oceans. So
The heat problem.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, well, that's a cool story, but it's physically impossible, so I'm not going to bother with it.
Yep.
My Unfinished Sock, who's been a member for 1 month, says, don't mangle ancient languages, like and share the stream instead. Yes. So,
you.
let's see.
I will be
The
right back. I almost forgot something.
Uh-oh. I'll continue reading. The language of the Old Testament, with the exception of the Aramaic bits. We'll get to the footnote here when I'm done.
Okay.
We know of as Hebrew is named after Aver. Think Hebrew or Hebrew.
Okay.
But I mean, no, right? It's Ivrit, or maybe even probably like something like hybrid. I can't do it, but
You can't do a glottal fricative.
not very well. No.
Okay,
Favorite.
so I'm
Get
gonna
it
let
when you say it.
chat
Favorite.
decide. Dreidels or let's get lit. So everybody in the chat,
I will make a
type
poll.
in your choice.
I'll just start a poll. It's
and then-
easier that way.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll
God.
reveal that.
I forgot to like the stream, guys.
Oh, also, Vishanti, where are your feathers? You owe double feathers right now, I think.
Double
I do,
feathers.
I do,
You
but
do.
it's also Hol HaMoed, so
Okay.
I'm taking a detour.
All right, just
Okay.
repeat them. What was it? Get lit or dreidel?
Just don't forget dreidel or get lit.
It's dreidel or let's get lit.
Okay.
Are you making? You're making a poll, right? You'll make a poll.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
How am I spelling dreidel? I can't think today.
I don't know how to spell dreidel.
Help me out.
It's Yiddish. Spell it like you would spell German.
Okay.
Dreidel.
Dreidel.
EIDEL. Dreidel.
All right, because you told me to spell it like it's German, and I'm bad at German, so I was just going to put in a whole bunch of random letters. It was going to be a mess.
You said get lit. It's supposed to be let's get lit.
All right, well, now everyone knows that.
Now I don't know what to vote for because you did it wrong.
It's true. My apologies. Josh McGee has gifted 5 time for dinosaur memberships. Thank you very much. I will take 5 drinks of this water that is not alcohol because there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5.
I think this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, it looks like Dreidel is winning pretty handily. The South Geek Beyond, who's been a member for 20 months, says 20 months of Dapper, 20 months of awesomeness. Hit like with the thumbs up emoji and keep the Hobbit in the nasty Hobbit hole, folks. Cheers and happy confetti ball emoji. Which, hey, it is Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa right now, so it's like the triple threat.
I'm gonna say this. Like, it's honestly a little surprising to me that I think Dreidl's going to win this poll by a much higher margin than the one you did to see if I should take a sobriety test. But I don't know what that says about people. Maybe good things. You guys are all really good people.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to finish with this last sentence. The Bible lists Noah's grandsons, his great-grandsons, great-great-grandsons, and great-great-great-grandsons who received a language at Babel in Genesis 10. Eber was one! Wow. Okay.
So all right, so we're gonna try and get a handle as to what the real model he's putting out here is. So out of Eber, languages like Hebrew through Isaac, Arabic through Joktan, and later dominated by Ishmael and other sons of Abraham, the Ammonite language through Lot and his son Ben Ami, and the Moabite language through Lot and his son Moab, and so on came. Okay, so
hold on. Wait, does Bodie think that the Moabite language came from Babel?
No, he thinks it came from Eber. So what I'm getting from this is that basically Eber and whoever was with him are speaking like Proto-Semitic.
Okay.
The question I have is, are they doing Proto-Semitic or are they doing like Proto-Afro-Asiatic? Because where do like the Berber languages and Egyptian come in? And I don't know. Because remember, the Semitic language family does not have no connection to other languages. It's connected to the other languages in North Africa. That's why it's Afro-Asiatic, because it centers around North Africa and Western Asia. Well, Southwestern Asia, very specifically. So, like, where does Egyptian and Berber come in?
I wonder what Bodie thinks the difference between Moabite and Hebrew is.
I don't think he thinks anything about that. Like, honestly, if you ask, I think if you asked him, he would not have a response ready. From Japheth, Genesis 10, 2 through 5 came 14 language family. Wow. From Ham in Genesis 10, I'm going to stop reading the references. You
39.
39, wow. And from Shem came at least 25, excluding Peleg and other children who may have just been born. Okay, so what?
So because they were babies, they didn't get their own language. Is that it?
I guess it's very unclear because, like, the idea that you get from the story is that people scatter into groups, and not that every single person gets their own language, because then you wouldn't be able to establish big groups, right? Or at least it would take a while, where people had to learn each other's languages and then form up groups like that. But like, okay,
this is but I think this has to be like a bit of a problem for him, right? Because he recognizes the existence of language families,
which the ancient authors of this text did not, by the way.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Because that's what I mean. But that is what Genesis 10 is a map of a map of global culture, right?
Well, as it was understood by the authors.
Which includes clear distinctions between the languages.
Right. Which we also know were in many cases barely separate languages, if we could even reasonably call them that.
Oh, yes. Yes. So, but yeah, that's interesting.
So, the total minimum number of languages that may have come out of Babel, according to Genesis 10, may have been at least 78. That is a sentence. Goodness. The total minimum number of languages that may have come out of Babel, according to Genesis, may have been... Geez, Bodie, just reduce it down to one conditional. Assuming Noah, Ham, Shem, Japheth... I doubt it. Assuming Noah, Ham, Shem, Japheth, and Peleg did not receive a new language. So I say that because text coming out of AIG rarely shows any kind of editorial standards. Even in their Answers Research Journal, which is their like blog that they pretend is a peer-reviewed
journal. Yes.
Yeah.
But peer reviewers don't do
Vishanti and I
editing.
Read well, okay, but they have a chief editor.
Right.
So Vishanti and I read through one of a paper,
and it's certainly a he, right?
Oh, it is.
What does he do?
We know who it is. It's Andrew Snelling. He as far as I can tell, his main function is to exclude papers that do not toe the party line. But when Vishanti and I read through a paper by one Dr. Gabriella Haynes about Archaeopteryx, in addition to just getting almost everything about the science wrong, just the English was a problem. And the thing is, I don't blame Dr. Haynes because English is her second language. She's from Brazil.
Right.
That Haynes is the name of her husband.
So I
don't blame her. But hey, Andrew Snelling, you're the editor. Why didn't you catch any of these grammar or spelling or punctuation mistakes?
Yes.
Any of these.
I've done this, right? As an editor and as a peer reviewer even.
Mm-hmm.
Helped people who are writing in English as their second language. That's what you do.
I mean,
help them out.
As someone who occasionally composes texts that aren't in English, I appreciate when people help me out with that. Because, I don't freaking know. I'm just doing my best. And I'm sitting here, trying to type out some Spanish, and someone comes by and is like, hey, man, you should fix that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. Because I'm not proud of that. Oh, whatever.
That's just, in my opinion, that's just being a dick, right? If you're just gonna, if you're just gonna let that slide.
Yeah.
Because it does make people look stupid.
Yeah.
Yes, that's being a dick. If you're not editing.
Right. I agree. So this excludes some descendants of Shem who are given slight mention in Genesis 11:11 through 17. Sorry. They may also have received a language. I don't know where he gets this, but okay.
So, right. So, hold on. He thinks that Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth were all present. at the tower? Is that
I
what
guess,
I'm seeing here?
I guess so. Maybe he's basing that on the fact that their reported ages are fairly long, so they would have lived long enough if he puts the
Had to
if he
have been.
puts the tower relatively early.
And the understanding I'm assuming too is that when the text says that everyone gathered in the land of Shinar,
It would have included
It meant
them.
literally
That meant-
every human.
that
Right.
meant every human
Mm-hmm. Because remember,
everywhere.
Hyperbole hadn't been invented yet.
whenever in
So-
the Bible it says everyone or all, it literally means every single one on the entire
every
earth,
single-
because that's
It
how human
must.
communication works.
Yes.
Yeah, that call word, it actually is a
Also-
very powerful word right there.
Yeah.
Call is powerful. I think we can call the poll.
I just
There's
yeah.
51 votes, and Dreidel hasn't shifted at all.
Oh.
And by the way,
Oh, there
in
we
case
go.
anyone doesn't know, kol is just Hebrew for all. It's related to Arabic kul, which is also all.
Mhm.
So yeah, Dreidel won with 66% of the vote out of 51 votes.
It could also mean every, but
yeah.
you know, this is determined by context. Yes.
Nice.
There we go. I can't. Can you put her? Can we make you big? How do I make you big, Fish? 'Cause I want to see.
you can
Okay,
click.
There we go. Oh yeah, love it.
Very nice. It's even got the right number. Wait, is there like are those patches or something? Oh, very clever.
I have to make it big
They're
again.
they're sequins, and you can like move
Okay.
them according to which
Ooh.
night it is.
That is very cool.
Very cool.
I would not have thought of that. I would have just been like, I don't know, I guess I need 8 sweaters. Because I'm an idiot. Yeah.
Okay.
This is why you don't design holiday clothes.
That's true. This is it's part of the reason. But yeah, I am not suggesting
reason-
Dapper for next holiday clothing designer guy.
The
That shouldn't
reason
be my
I
job.
don't design holiday clothes is because it would just all be skulls.
I mean, depending on the holiday, that might work.
Yeah, but
I
every
mean,
holiday.
That would probably work for Maccabees.
But the
to be
covers for
honest,
half of
like-
them, I expect.
Star Song for $5 says, "How were there enough people to build a tower to heaven only a few years after the flood?" So I'm thinking that Bodie is putting this about a century after the flood, and so he's imagining about a century of population growth. The problem is then that
And they're all like quiverful,
right.
like
Of course,
Right?
the problem
So
with that, though,
everyone's-
is that contradicts other claims from AIG that they make pretty consistently, because they like to use a particular growth rate, where if you do just the exponential like regression, you get to the current population after starting with 8 people, even though they should really start with 6, because I don't think Noah and his wife were having a lot more kids. But whatever. But the problem is that because it's an exponential function, right? Because they're basically just doing the compound interest formula, which is the same as the population growth formula in an unconstrained population growth scenario. But that means that when you start out, you get very low rates of reproduction. So, like, after a century, there should only be like 10 people, according to their own math, which doesn't work out for them.
right.
So instead, they imagine a giant population explosion here when they need that population to build a tower. But then later, when they need that nice, smooth exponential curve, they reverse course on that. And if you trace back that curve to this point, there would be like 10 people. So, like, hey, AIG, you should get an actual model of the past that doesn't contradict itself. Because when you have internal contradictions in your own model of the past, it means you're definitely wrong. Because
That
they
feels
can't
like
both be right.
That feels like a tall order.
Yeah. Yeah. So were there hundreds of people or were there tens of people? And if there were hundreds of people, you got to stop with the population growth. And if there were tens of people, then you can't put the Tower of Babel with like Ham and Japheth and Shem and Noah all being alive. Like,
So have you
However many people I need it to be.
mhm.
Don't you
have
know?
you read or scanned this book yet, Dapper?
I've skimmed through it very, very
Right.
loosely, so I don't actually know
Okay, so
his main arguments.
I'm kind of curious now. Like I assume at some point, I mean, he's padding it like crazy. So I assume at some point Bodhi's going to address this question of how many people were there and you know how they managed to build the structure. Is some of this is this like some of this like supernatural, like they had help from
They had Solomon's demons helping from before Solomon.
Dark forces.
Yeah, they were definitely using goetic magic to summon and control demons. So here we go. Well, here's one thing, right? Oops, sorry, I'm moving around this thing. My bad on that one. Sorry, everybody. So both Vista-wide world languages and cultures and Ethnologue, companies that provide statistics on languages, agree that there are more than 78 estimates constantly change, but are currently sitting between 94 and 120 language families. Okay, but that doesn't mean a whole lot because we don't know at what level that is. Because think about this, right? Let's say we just take English, German, French, Spanish, Persian, Hindi, and we ask how many language families are there in that collection? Well, you could say one because they're all Indo-European languages. But you could also say, okay, well, one is in, the language family, like an Indic language family. One is its own subset Persian that doesn't have too many descendants. But then French and Spanish both go into Romance, and German and English both go into Germanic. And then we could add like Brittonic and Irish, and then we get another language family with Celtic. But those are still all. And then we could also say, okay, but the Celtic, Germanic, and Romance languages are all more closely related to each other than any of them are to Persian, so they form a separate family there. So is that the family that we're going with? So one of the problems with saying this number of language families, it's like saying how many clades there are in the tree of life. Like,
right? Yes.
Like, what does it mean? What does that number mean? Is it just how many branching points you found? Because you can also break it down even further, right? Like, okay, well, English and German are both West Germanic languages, but we know of Gothic, which was an East Germanic language, and we know of Romanian, which is an East Romance language, it's the only one. So does that mean that those are other families there? At what level does Tower of Babel come in? So just saying this is how many language families there are fundamentally does not provide helpful information for what your model is when you do it this way, unless you're very clear about what you mean. Aiden, Matthew Galea for €5 with their first super chat. Thank you very much. Sends is this supposed to be what is it? Maltese? Like,
oh my god.
Wait, is that supposed to be a J? Vigibiet Genasi Hija. I don't know what the X is supposed to be. Like Hedja Fisorum no, now I'm less convinced that this is supposed to be Maltese. I have no idea.
Yes, Maltese.
Oh, it is Maltese? Look, Maltese is like the weird, like, redheaded stepchild of Arabic, and I don't understand it very well. So I'm gonna take a drink, but hey, Malta. It's okay. You can just go back to using the Arabic alphabet. It's way better suited for your language. Please stop trying to use the Latin alphabet. Please.
Fun fact, everyone. Do you want to hear my fun fact?
Sure.
I have a friend who is an archaeologist. Just one. I have a friend who is an archaeologist at the University of Malta.
Nice. Does your friend speak Maltese?
I assume he would have to.
Yeah.
To be, a faculty member at the University of Malta. Feels like a requirement. He's Maltese. He is from Malta. So,
okay. Well,
Maltese
is the only Semitic language that is an official European Union language. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $2 says, which tribe spoke Finno-Ugric with a Mothra? We'll take a drink for that Mothra. And yeah, good question. Where did the Finno-Ugric languages come from, Bodie? Was that Ham? Japheth? Who knows? Aiden Matthew Galea for €10 says, no, it's for funnier. Okay. You know what? I can give you that. It is funnier seeing people try to write Arabic with the Latin alphabet as just their normal alphabet. It just breaks my brain.
Metageeky says, Kip isn't friends with Vishanti or Dapper?
Mm-mm.
That's your choice, guys.
We're,
Are we
uh,
friends?
We're work acquaintances. Is apparently what's going on. Sorry, Kip.
That's fine.
That's why I never
that's
send.
okay.
That's why I never send anything that isn't work related to our group chat.
It's true.
Oh, okay.
Very true. Yes.
Okay.
Shanti's like, I
Oh.
can't even
Do
pretend.
do 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 do.
Goofball Gorgon Utskea for $5 says, my strawman seems to be wearing a shirt depicting a eggplant. I hope AIG didn't build it. Thank you very much. We'll take a drink there. Oh, this laughing is starting to give me a headache. Jeez.
Oh no.
All right, some
I'll just keep reading this book. That'll kill all the humor.
yeah. Some groupings include sign languages and constructed languages that have been developed. Okay, that probably shouldn't count. With further study,
Guys, Maya's gonna be my friend.
Aw,
Thanks, Maya.
that's
I have
nice.
2 now.
Okay, there you go. Well, actually, that is a good question though. Like, did Babel come out with any sign languages?
Ooh,
I mean, they're
that's a
languages.
good question.
They're fundamentally languages. Like, pretty much everything about linguistics works with sign languages. There are obviously some things that are a little bit different because of the way sign languages work versus verbal languages. Like, for one thing, they're a pain in the ass to write down because they are not as easily broken down into finite groupings of sounds. So, yeah, I mean, there's that. But, like, fundamentally, linguists study sign languages and they follow the rules of human languages. But with further study in years to come, this may change to a smaller number, but this figure is well within the range of families that dispersed from Babel, according to Bodie, who got that number by just seeing which number should work for him, which we need to remember. Alex Marco says sign languages should count, but that's the thing. Like, they count as languages in language families, but I'm not sure if they would count for, according to Bodie, for languages that came out of Babel, because one thing that Bodie could probably reasonably say is that all known sign languages have relatively recent origins, which is true, as far as I can tell. There might be some exceptions in some of the sign languages used by, like, North American native peoples. Those might have older origins, but, like, I'm pretty sure that most of the common ones are relatively recent, including some that just sprung up de novo among deaf communities in, like, the last, like, century. So he would probably say they don't count as languages from Babel for that reason. I do not mean that they do not count as languages worthy of study.
This looks like a fun footnote.
Footnote. I want to read this because it's giving me.
The number. Are you looking at footnote number 6?
Okay. No, I'm looking
Yeah.
at 4, but 6 is also
Oh.
right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna start reading
I
these footnotes because it's giving
There we
me
go.
psychic damage. Footnote number 4. Even Aramaic has similarities to Hebrew.
gee, you don't say, Bodie.
Just a few.
It's like
right?
saying even
Just a few.
Italian has similarities to Spanish.
Right?
You think? And this is likely due to the descendants of Abraham and Lot, for example, Israelites, Ishmaelites, Lot, Moab, Edom, and the sons of Abraham and Keturah, conquering most of the Middle East.
Jeez.
The assimilation of languages is surely the main reason.
What does that mean?
There is an Aram in the genealogies of Eber, and those descendants would speak a variant form of Hebrew, though Josephus points out that the Aramaean people who spoke Aramaic came through Aram at the Table of Nations in Genesis 10, not the later Aram who was a Hebrew. Aramaic was a common trade language.
I mean, that last part is correct.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This is an accurate statement, everybody. Aramaic was
It
indeed
certainly
a
is,
common trade
yes.
language. We'll take a drink for him getting
Hey,
something right.
Do you think he knows when Jews started using the Aramaic script to write
Absolutely no.
Hebrew?
He has no clue.
Okay.
Like,
Nope.
Okay.
do you honestly think that you could get a coherent answer out of Bodie Hodge as to when Hebrew-speaking people started switching alphabets?
I mean, he thinks Hebrew came from Aber, so we're not
Yes.
exactly dealing with an intellectual titan here.
No.
Okay,
So we read
footnote number
Number
6.
6. Yeah.
It
Oh,
is
my
possible.
goodness.
Oh God, what did you do?
I'm sorry. Oh no.
It was too dumb for the browser.
No, I tried to click on the browser to make it my active window, and instead I actually clicked the hyperlink.
Oops.
Yeah. So hold on.
A Bodie hyperlink?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. All right.
See these links right here? They actually work. So if I click on them
Oh,
accidentally,
yes, of course. Okay.
which means that Bodie is doing better
So
than
what was
I'm with
the
Liz
Raw
D
Matt.
on this.
now I'm. What did Liz D say?
Everyone should just speak Chekhovsa as we wait for the Lisan al-Gaib.
It's true. We should
I don't
actually.
know what that means.
I don't even think they created a Chekhovso language for that. Wasn't it just gibberish that sounded kind of vaguely Arabic?
No, I thought they actually did it.
Did they?
Thought so.
I mean, I should just assume that they did because nowadays movies just make languages.
So,
I have a question about the hyperlinks, Dapper.
Mm-hmm.
What on earth was the link to the bad grainy picture of the?
Oh, that wasn't. That was me hitting back. That's the cover of the book.
Oh, okay. All right, we're good.
Yeah.
So, are we reading footnote number 6?
Yes.
oh yes, yes we are.
Okay.
It is possible that the language of Aramaic, the language of the Syrians, and that which Jesus cried out in on the cross, is also an Aber language due to it being
Aber
it's
language.
being
Oh my
so
God.
similar to Hebrew. Josephus places this language as coming from Aram, the son of Shem in Genesis 10 as a
Does
new
he know? Josephus knew.
However, due to its similarities with Hebrew and other Aber languages, Aramaic
Mhm.
may have been from Aram, the great nephew of Abraham, who was the son of Kemuel, the son of Nahor, Abraham's brother.
Okay.
These people were also Hebrews and would
Oh
make sense
my-
why this language is so familiar. No! Abraham is
Oh
the
my
first
goodness.
Hebrew. Why?
Okay, so first we're going to take a drink because I did in fact have a Dapper's a professional moment with that
Abraham
misclick.
is the first Hebrew because he crossed over the river.
Roaching up
I
Polydactyl
Yeah.
Jesus Keller for $4.99 says, which great son, I think you mean grandson, of Noah does what's his face think Japonic comes from? Yeah, that's a good question. So Japonic is a language family that basically just includes Japanese in all forms and Ainu, which is a language spoken by an indigenous people group in Japan who are not very well treated by the Japanese, by the way. There have been strides to
Vadim
fix
said-
that, but...
Nippon, son of Noah, duh.
Oh, there you go, of course.
I have a new theory. Maybe it's not the River Vish. Maybe Avraham was the first Hebrew because they like to sacrifice their firstborn sons.
That
Just
got
saying, and sorry guys, I know it did, but I'm especially in terms of the vocalization of Ibrit. And this is just something that popped into my head, but I think I could make a case. I think I could make an argument
I think you could too.
about connecting those dots. Now I'm curious.
Thread that needle. I'll help you
Yeah.
write it.
I think there's a paper in there somewhere.
So
I'll help you
what?
write it.
Another thing I want to point out is that oh yeah, it's not Ainu. Ainu is a separate language. Sorry about that. Pointed out by Alex Markle. It's Ryukyuan languages that are spoken on some islands near Japan. My bad. I'm gonna chalk that one up to the fact that I am still not feeling great, but also I want to point something out here. This entire footnote is fundamentally misunderstanding the way that languages work. They don't work on the basis of a person starts a new language with their family, right? Languages evolve among communities of speakers. You can't just go out on your own and then just found a new language.
Start your language,
Right? Like, technically, okay, sure, you could convince everyone to speak your new conlang, I suppose. Like, that's physically possible, but that's not generally...
It's a lot of work.
Right.
So,
Like,
know.
the most popular conlang, in terms of number of speakers, including native speakers, is Esperanto. And there is no coherent single nation of Esperantists who are going around in their daily lives using Esperanto in their country, and you can go to Esperanto country, and that's the language you need to learn to go there. Like, even the most popular language, or constructed language, that didn't work with. The closest we can come is, like, the decision in Israel to just start using a modernized version of Hebrew, which had some work done on it to make it a little bit, basically to expand the vocabulary so that you could talk about more things than biblical Hebrew could, or even like late medieval Hebrew. But like, that's kind of close. But yeah, generally you don't like, oh, my grandson, yeah, he moved to this other side of the mountains, and he and his family, they just started a whole new language. It was great. Like, that's not a thing. It's not how this works.
I mean, obviously Bodie doesn't understand this because he also doesn't understand that this is how evolution happens, that it's in populations, not individuals. So, of course, this is something completely foreign to him.
Right. And the thing is, like...
Oh, snap, it's also Diwali, so happy Diwali.
Hey, happy Diwali.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Jeez, why are there so damn many holidays right now?
This is the very busy last week and a half of December, so...
It sure is.
Yeah,
it's funny how that works, eh?
Yeah. So another thing is, like, when languages change, there's a pace at which they can change, right? Have you ever noticed that you were able to understand your grandparents? And if you listen to a recording of people speaking English from, like, the 1890s, they don't sound exactly like we sound or like anyone sounds today, but they're very clearly comprehensible. Like, you understand what they're saying. You don't need a translation book handy. And the reason for that is because as languages change, if a change were to stop the ability of members of the speech community to communicate with each other, that's not going to persist, right? Like, it can't. Because the whole point of language is to facilitate that communication. And anything that would stop that isn't something that's going to happen. Which means that language changes have to be slow, and there are actually rules that they tend to follow. And you can't just have some guy go off on his own and found a new language like this, especially not a natural language. And if it's a constructed language, there are usually ways to tell. It takes a lot of work to make a constructed language not look like a constructed language.
I mean, obviously, Romanian was started by a single Roman.
Yeah, that's how it works. His name was probably Roman, actually.
Yeah.
Roman the Roman. Roshan Polydactyl Jesus Keller for $4.99 says, languages are evolved by communities. Livy just rizzed up baby Gronk. Is he the new Riz King? First, yes, he is.
I can't wait for future linguists to try to explain skibbity toilet.
I mean, they're already working on it. Like, here's the thing, right? New, like, Gen Z slang tends to be absurdist, but it also still just functions like slang always does. It has often obscure etymologies, but it's still primarily a form of communication that is sending out... It's basically a sociolect, right? It is used by a certain group of people among each other, both as a means of communication, as well as a means of identification with the in-group. So, it's just a shibboleth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in case you didn't know, a shibboleth is a word that you use to see if someone can pronounce shibboleth.
That's all it's used for.
Well. All right. More on languages.
More. Well, good.
Here's the thing, though.
More.
We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna refill my water, and we're gonna come back, and then we'll be going on with more on languages. Who would like to start us off with that? Because I think we've all had a turn at reading. Okay.
Mitch hasn't read yet.
She read the footnotes.
Yeah, I only did.
She read footnotes.
Right.
Those don't count.
They count. They count.
I don't expect anyone to read my footnotes. So I just put any shit I want in there.
I remember
because
sorry.
Nobody reads them.
I do.
I remember
but
several.
Only if they're footnotes and not endnotes.
Well, yeah.
Endnotes are for losers.
Endnotes suck. Footnotes are better.
They really do.
I do remember several of the papers I wrote in college having the footnotes take up a significant majority of the page. And not just because I was padding it out, but because I actually needed to cite a whole lot of things to make the claim that I was making. And it's
And no
like,
one was surprised.
yeah, it's like, okay, this claim, this sentence of mine is footnotes 1 through 6. You should check all of those because they're all separate citations. Oh, hey, Landon Knowles here. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone and latitude and distance from the Kilauea volcano eruption. I am fortunately very far away from any active volcanoes. There's a bunch of extinct volcanoes from like hundreds of millions of years ago all around here, but no active volcanoes. Arizona actually has a very low rate of natural disaster. We don't really have earthquakes, volcanoes. We don't really have hurricanes. We get a tornado about once a decade, and sometimes we get dust storms, but they're like more of a driving hazard than a like, oh no, my house is going to be destroyed or my crops are going to be gone or something.
You get flash floods.
We do get the occasional flash flood. Yeah. All right. We're going to go out on the break, and we'll be right back. Next time on Star Trek Lexington.
Captain's Log, Stardate 6652.1. The Lexington has been ordered by Admiral Stoker to the planet Taurus 2 in the Murasaki 312 cluster. The planet was first surveyed a year and a half ago by the USS Enterprise, which nearly resulted in the death of the whole landing party, led by Commander Spock. The Admiral believes that the ionic storms the planet is known for may be connected to potential Tilakal ruins under the surface, and we are tasked with investigating. We'll have to visit the planet covertly, because the natives are still in their Stone Age, and they're also known to be aggressive and stand about 3 meters tall. So not only is the Prime Directive a concern, but they pose a significant physical threat to any landing party personnel. I'm organizing a landing party, and I'm considering issuing phaser rifles set to stun, but I'll consult with Mr. Croc about that.
The crew will find the Taurians are much changed, which may be a rare blessing. However, contradictory sensory readings and ion storms will strand the landing party. Can they navigate reality-breaking energies, dangerous environments, and natives still protected by the Prime Directive to get back home? Was the Murasaki 312 Nebula a former Tilakal stronghold, as Admiral Stoker suspects? Find out next time on Star Trek Lexington, only on the Top Hats Off channel. Okay, we are back. Well, most of us are back. Kip couldn't quite make it back. He will be back, I trust, though. So now that we are back, I do want to say that I want to first thank everyone because you guys are the reason that this channel can keep on keeping on, right? Without your support, this channel basically would barely exist. There might be a video every week or so instead of the 2 to sometimes 3 live streams and 1 to sometimes 2 scripted videos that have been very consistently put out. With the only break being last December, actually, where I had a fake community guidelines strike that we had to basically harass YouTube on Twitter to get lifted. That was fun. If you are currently enjoying what we do and you want to help out, there are some great ways. There's the Patreon linked in the description. You can also go to Vicious channel. She has a Patreon as well. There's also the channel memberships, which I don't believe Vishanti has. There was a Kip Arm. He still exists. But yeah, those both give you access to my Discord server, early access to videos, all sorts of cool stuff like that. There's also a merch store that's down in the description. Also, Bent Hovind, my regular co-host for Kent with Bent, has a Patreon and a wish list if you want to get him anything. Also, I think one of the things that if you want to help out Bent that he would appreciate the most would be helping him out with his with Carmen's vet bills because they were unexpected. And in case you guys don't know, Bent is a disabled veteran who had a career removed from him by the VA because they literally threw out his paperwork that he needed to get his accommodations so that he could continue to work while being disabled. And instead of just filing that like they were supposed to so that he could submit that to work so that he could be, covered under the ADA with some relatively minor accommodations, they just threw that paperwork away, literally into a trash can. So, any little help with Bent would help because he's currently trying to survive without a decent job, basically, because he spent years training to get that job, got a degree that took quite a while, and now he just basically can't work in that industry anymore. So, CeeLo says, sue them. Here's a fun fact. You basically can't sue the VA because they're the government. The government has to let you sue them, and they can just opt not to. And even if you then do sue them, it's almost impossible to prove anything anyway. Is that an entire glass of eggnog right there?
It certainly
Yeah, it
is.
is.
It's got
Wow.
It's got some Crown in it.
Okay.
So,
That is a lot more eggnog than I was expecting. Hey man, go for it.
inject it into my veins, dude. Although this isn't the good stuff. I really, really like the eggnog that you get from Costco, if it's not homemade. But apparently I'm not the only one who likes the eggnog from Costco because my brother told me that they were sold clean out
Oh my god.
when he went to go pick some up. So it's okay though. It's better with the Crown in it.
Jillian Rock Candy Mammoth Wren says, hot take, you shouldn't need special paperwork to get basic accommodations.
Right.
Look, I'm not going to disagree, but that's not currently the world that we're living in. So
This is not. Yes.
yeah, that is a fine aspirational take, but unfortunately, it doesn't help Bent. Alex Marco says, I have a girlfriend who speaks Philippine English. I select of English as a second language. The misunderstandings between us have been funny. Nice. That actually does sound like an interesting dynamic there. Roshan of Polydactyl Jesus Keller for $1.99 says, pumpkin spice eggnog is best eggnog. Look.
Honestly, that sounds terrible.
Look,
I don't know,
here's
man.
the thing. Pumpkin spice isn't
Drink
my
that.
thing. But look, if it's yours, great. Great. I'm not one of these people who feels like everyone else needs to have the same preferences that I do for like food and TV and whatnot. If you like a show I don't like or you like a drink I don't like, please enjoy them. And also,
Within reason, I think.
now you know what? I'm even okay with people who like Star Trek Discovery.
Oh,
I mean, they're
Are
objectively
you
wrong.
okay
But
with people who don't like Breaking Bad?
yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, objectively they're wrong, but like whatever.
I've never watched any of it, so I don't know
What?
Uh oh.
What? How?
It's
How
easy.
have
you
you
don't
not
turn the TV to that channel when it
watched-
airs. It was quite simple to do.
Oh, Vishanti.
All right, Vishanti, you want to start us off with
I'm
more on
sorry.
languages?
Sure. One thing we can learn from history about languages was given previously. One thing was given previously. This is so bad. You need an editor. But I want to draw out some important points. Specifically, I want to discuss the issue of Arabic, originally being a language of Joktan, but becoming dominated by Abraham and his progeny.
Okay.
What?
Uh,
Historians like James Anderson and Josephus have pointed out that Ishmael and Abraham's other sons with Keturah dominated the Arabian Peninsula, as well as other places in the Middle East and North Africa. We even have a lineage from Ishmael to Muhammad, who conquered much of the Middle East and North Africa and forced them into a counterfeit of Christianity called
oh my
Mohammedanism.
god.
Or Islam, though this took place much later after
Oh
8600, but
my
can this
God.
affect the languages in
Oh,
the areas?
Okay, so a few things.
So, there's many things.
Yeah, first of all,
Wow.
rulers like to give themselves bullshit genealogies. Like the genealogy of King Charles of England includes fucking Odin. Like,
Does it actually? That's awesome.
We know that Alexander the Great's dad was Philip, but he's like, nah, I'm actually just like a son of the gods.
yeah,
Yeah,
Really.
right? Like So first, did Ishmael exist as a historical character? Almost certainly not. Even if he did, is there any good reason to think that Muhammad was actually his descendant? No, absolutely none. So first, we'll just get rid of that whole thing there. Second, I want to point out that Muhammad died before the conquests outside of the Arabian Peninsula. In fact, after his death, before the conquests outside of there was what was called the Apostasy Wars, because it turns out a whole bunch of tribes in the Hijaz, which is basically the Arabian Peninsula, were like, yeah, we were only ever in this for like the war plunder. We don't really care about like Allah or, like Salat 5 times a day or, any of these things. We don't care about paying zakat. We just wanted the war plunder. And so then a coalition of tribes who stayed Muslim, mostly led by Fatima, Muhammad's, I believe, first daughter. I'm not sure about that. But or was it run by Aisha? I think it actually might have been his second wife Aisha that ran it. I don't remember. It was either his second wife or his oldest daughter. There was a coalition there that reconquered those tribes to turn them back to Islam, and then they left and started conquering places like the Eastern Roman Empire and North Africa. So Bodhi is clearly not getting this right. Also, I don't even know.
Hiding from Dapper Dinosaur, says Jack Chick intensifies.
Seriously, this is
geez.
It's
yeah.
bad.
Also,
It's bad.
look, Mohammedism.
Who the hell is James Anderson?
No idea.
That sounds familiar, but I don't actually know. Of course, it's a very generic name, so of course it sounds familiar. Right?
And there's no. Oh, maybe it's in footnote 9. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But
so there's also, look, Mohammedism is a term that was common among Orientalists like a century and a half ago. There is no reason to use it
Crazy.
here in like, when was this written? Like 2017?
I mean, it was
Yeah.
also common in inquisitorial records. Like,
Okay,
you see
fair,
quite a
yeah.
lot, actually.
is this Bodhi trying to? Do you think this is his botched attempt at trying to sound smart
I
and
just
failing spectacularly
I just think it's
by
just,
calling it Mohammedism?
I think it's just Islamophobia. I think it's
God.
just
Yeah, it's
that.
Islamophobia. He's just trying to
It's
trying to
really-
delegitimize it by calling it Mohammedism instead of Islam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and also
really gross.
I don't know what it means for it to be a counterfeit of Christianity. Clearly, the author of the Quran is aware of Christianity, although the author of the Quran also seems to vastly misunderstand Christianity. But, like, it's not like Muhammad was coming in saying like, "Oh, hey, I've got Christianity 2 or Judaism 3, however you want to think about it." Right? Like
No, but in this,
Finally, we learn where Tritonomy is. The Quran.
Yeah.
but in this worldview,
Mhm.
right? Everything is a counterfeit of
Well,
Christianity.
yes, of course.
I mean, suppose.
including Judaism, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Which is like, I'm sorry. Okay, it's bizarre. That was me working very hard not to say the F word, but it's bizarre.
Yeah, this whole thing is. First, I don't even know what it has to do with anything. Like, I don't know why he's going into this. It doesn't really matter. It's like he just decided to take like a break to just be Islamophobic, just to, I guess, show his
He
Islamophobia
realized
cred.
he hadn't done it to this point and was like,
Yeah.
"Oh snap! I gotta get
I
this
should
in."
probably crap on Muslims real quick. You know, I wish we could do as much scholarship on the Quran as we can on the Bible. We really can't.
It's yeah,
I mean,
it's unfortunate.
You should go
that-
to SBL sometime because there's a whole lot of scholarship happening.
Oh, there is, but it's you literally physically can't do as much work on like early editions of the text because there was an official censorship of variant texts that happened pretty like a few hundred years into the history of Islam, and like there's almost nothing from before that, so that you just can't do textual criticism on the Quran at the same level as you can on biblical texts.
It's what evangelical text critics actually wish happened to the New Testament.
Yeah,
seriously,
but sadly didn't. So
yeah, and also you get Muslim apologists who will pretend that event was actually there were no variants. It was just collecting old versions of the text and like that were getting like crappy and old and handing out new shiny Qurans. And it's like, look, man, we do have some manuscripts from before this, and there are textual variants. And then they'll retreat to like, but only in the pointing. It's like, nope, man, look.
Yeah.
Then they'll say, okay, so there's different consonants, but that's only the consonants that have the diacriticals that aren't vowel points, but that still differentiate letters. And it's like, no, man, we still, even then, right? Because there's two levels of diacritics that end up in the Quran, right? There's the first level, which is what you learn as just the basic alphabet of Arabic. Right, like what's the difference between a ba, a ta, a tha, and like in the text, it's just the number of dots around the letter, which aren't vowel points. But originally, the Arabic alphabet didn't do that, and there was just the shape of the letters that was called the rasm. It's like, no, we have variants in the rasm. You can't just explain it by alternate diacritical marks to distinguish otherwise identical
Dapper,
consonants.
That contradicts my theology.
Oh, sorry.
See, I'm trying to decide if that's better or worse than just doing your best to ignore and pretend that the textual differences aren't there. I mean, I guess that's what they're doing, right?
Yeah, they're just pretending.
On one level. I mean, it's the same, except that evangelical text critics have to ignore a lot more.
Well, I feel like the impetus to say that there are no variants or that we have an exact copy of the Quran is stronger in Islam because Christians don't generally think of the Bible as being like literally dictated by God to someone.
True. That's
whereas
true.
Most
of them don't.
The idea in Islam is that the Quran was written by God telling Gabriel, or Jibril in Arabic, to tell Muhammad what should be in the Quran, and then Muhammad just recites it word for word.
Yeah.
And there's even in some theological traditions, there's the idea that the Quran is an eternal book, and it has always existed in the mind of Allah until He finally gave it to Muhammad. So, like, I understand that stronger impetus because it's the literal text is a much more central part of Islam than the Bible is, even to Protestants. Vandelian 1998, who's been a member for 50 months, my goodness, and is at the amniote level, says, today I am 45 years old, not as old as Dapper, but still getting up there. Well, happy birthday. I'm assuming that means it's your birthday. By the way, my hand is feeling much better since my surgery last week. Well, awesome. And then Nita, who
I just want to send prayers up to all the Christmas babies
yeah,
for y'all getting screwed on your birthday presents.
mhm.
Thinking about y'all.
That's why I like that my birthday is in June. No one with a June
Shut
birthday ever has their birthday ignored because of Christmas.
Shut up.
Nita, who's been a member for 20 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, "I'll do my own Christianity with blackjack and hookers."
Good.
I mean, in some cases, that's just Christianity. Because it's not like Christians
I
have
just
had like
wanna
a
say-
dearth of hookers and blackjack.
Nee, also known as Annoying Newsletters, just as also known as about 1,000 other things. This dude has more nicknames than Old Dirty Bastard. Writes in the chat, Sal Cordova, bitch made 621 days, 2 hours, 20 minutes, and probably by now 30 seconds.
Nice. All right. I want to actually just shoot down to that footnote because I want to know what he's basing
Footnote number
it.
9.
Anderson,
Anderson,
Royal
Royal
Genealogies.
Genealogies. Oh,
Royal
okay.
genealogy.
Okay.
Jeez.
What the? So does he have is there a bibliography in this book?
I don't know.
Because what the fuck am I supposed to do with that citation?
I mean, there must
He
be
listed
one.
a fuller thing like further up.
Yeah.
Did
He
he?
listed like
Plus,
a corner.
I bet
Are
if
you sure?
I bet if you just
Okay.
Google Royal Genealogies Anderson, the text will probably pop up.
I'm sure you can, but come on.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to keep reading this nonsense. Language changes. When we look at Arabic today, it is very similar to Biblical Hebrew. Do you think he knows how conservative Arabic is as a language?
No, he does not. Look,
I don't think
Reason
it's that.
is
Is it that
simply
similar?
that Ishmael spoke
similar.
Hebrew due to his father Abraham, who was also a Hebrew.
Oh my god! So he thinks Ishmael invented Arabic. Is that where we're going here?
no, he apparently
No.
learned it from the descendants of Joktan, but
Oh,
then Ishmael's descendants became the numerically like majority speakers of Arabic.
How does this work?
It doesn't. It's that simple. it's just him
Wow.
trying to make up for the fact that the Bible is inconsistent about who speaks what language and what their ancestry is, because it's just
Wait a minute.
a legendary ancestry.
So I think I'm a little slow, but does it work this way? Does it work that Yoktan invented Arabic?
Well, more like
And
he's the ancestor of the people who first
Yeah,
spoke
yeah, yeah.
Arabic. But yeah,
Okay, so and then Ishmael was banished
hmm
and had to go live with them, but it was super easy for him because he spoke Hebrew. Is that how this works?
You're thinking too hard about it, probably.
look, I don't know if Bodie is trying to go in with like it was helpful that he spoke Hebrew as his first language to learn Arabic. All I think Bodie is going with is Ishmael and his descendants went to an area where Arabic was spoken by the descendants of Yoktan, and then that's the language they just started speaking, and that's why today Arabs are seen as the descendants of Ishmael primarily, and not Yoktan, and that's it. That's as far as he's going. And within,
Can I also
Yeah.
Can I also just say that as closely related as Arabic is to Hebrew, I found Arabic pretty hard, actually,
it's not
when
easy.
I was learning it.
Yeah. It's also harder
After-
to pronounce than most modern pronunciations of Hebrew.
Oh, yes.
Hmm.
Like what Vish was saying earlier about how Arabic is very conservative. Its primary area where it's conservative is phonetics. Arabic preserves a lot of sounds that were present in like Proto-Semitic that most Semitic languages got rid of. Like the ayin sound that is still a voice
Right.
pharyngeal fricative in virtually every version. They still distinguish between the so-called light and dark consonants, or the normal and emphatic consonants, and they glottalize the emphatic consonants generally, or sorry, they pharyngealize them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Like you know, the difference between Sin and Samek in modern Hebrew is phonetically, there's just no difference. They're the same sound, basically.
Yeah.
Well, the correlates of those letters in Arabic don't sound the same. And if you pronounce them the same, you will say the wrong word. Or you'll say a nonsense word.
Hey, Kip, this should be the perfect time for me to ask if you read the Agadah that I wrote about how Tzadeh and Samek are definitely not the same letter.
Definitely
despite what
not.
that idiot claimed, and that you can't just ignore ayin as a vowel holder because, bitch, it's a consonant.
Mm-hmm.
You idiot.
It's definitely not a vowel holder. In fact,
wow.
Even in cases where you see,
I mean, it is in the sense that every letter is potentially a vowel holder, right?
But not in the same sense as like Aleph or Vav or something like that is a vowel holder, right? Where it's often written because to let you know that there's a vowel there.
And even Aleph is not that common.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it's just the yod and the vav.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Aleph does appear occasionally. It's just not that common.
There's no way that guy
default use in Arabic is as
Hebrew
a
for
vowel.
that many years and doesn't know like how the Mater Lectionis works or how guttural vowel patterns work. Like, it's just so dumb.
Well, let's keep going with this.
Ooh. Okay.
Let's.
This also happened with Aramaic, spoken by the descendants of Aram, and Phoenician, spoken by some Canaanites and are near the land of Canaan. These lands were basically conquered or heavily influenced by the Israelites who spoke Hebrew. Okay, yeah, that's backwards. So, although Aramaic was originally connected with Aram and his language family, the long history of Israelites speaking a form of Hebrew dominated their lands. Sometimes the languages mix, but have more elements of one compared to another.
So how long is that history?
No.
Of Israelites
Even
speaking Hebrew?
Even Hebrew has Egyptian, Aramaic, Canaanite, Babylonian, and other borrowed words. This is expected since Abraham and his progeny lived among many of these people. Wow.
Abraham speaks Hebrew, and because he's descended from Aver, but then because he spent time in Egypt and came from Ur,
and
then
obviously
lived in Canaan. He just these words. That's the reason.
It's just he's the most epic polyglot of all time.
We have a super chat that I almost missed. Sorry about that. It is from Roshina Polydactyl Jesus Killer, who says, so the Quran is just like the Book of Mormon? Well, no, because even in the internal narrative of how the Book of Mormon comes to be from like a traditional Mormon perspective, it's records that are written down by humans with, the inspiration of the Holy Spirit in a similar way to the idea of inspiration of the Bible. Now, the data don't support an ancient origin for Book of Mormon. It was a 19th century composition. We know that as much as we can say anything is a 19th century composition. It's less clear if Joseph Smith is the actual author of all of it, or if some of it might have been composed by someone else, or even if some of it might have been lightly plagiarized, shall we say. But the internal idea is that that's people writing down their own histories and their stories from their own culture. That's why it starts out with like a first person, or there's a first person narrative from Moroni, who's the angel who used to be the guy who originally buried the golden tablets in a hill somewhere in New York. Which also then confuses me as to why Mormons like to then set Book of Mormon lands in like Mesoamerica, even though all the artifacts that they say Joseph Smith dug up were in like the Northeast. It's like, well, then shouldn't the stories be from around there? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, because it's cooler.
Well, it's cooler, but also it's the only place where they can actually find cities that look like big and fancy enough to have had things like people in armor riding out on beasts of burden battle, which didn't happen, but
I'm thinking we should rename Abraham. So he was Avram,
Hmm.
and they changed it to Abraham.
Depends
But
on
I
which
think we
source
should,
you're reading.
I think we should change it instead of father of many nations. You should change it to father of many languages. So you got to work Lashon in there somehow.
Okay.
I feel like I need to deliver a public service announcement here to tell Triceratops says you should just click harder to please hang in there.
Yeah, really.
Don't die.
It gets better.
Yeah, this stream will end.
It will. It will.
All right. Do you want to keep going, or should we have Kip step in?
I'll just do this one more paragraph.
Okay.
Consider the case with English.
Oh God.
We still retain more German roots in our language. I think he meant Germanic.
Yeah.
Even though we have much French and Latin influence, although English dominates the United Kingdom and Ireland, the language is mixed with previous languages that were already on the island. Well, except for Welsh.
Yeah, that's the
and
thing. They largely
Yeah.
didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
English has phenomenally
didn't.
little influence from Celtic languages. Like it seems just to have not had a lot of
Yeah.
linguistic contact that resulted in loans.
This helps distinguish English from other Germanic-based languages. Okay.
I
Romans,
guess.
speaking Latin, dominated Spain, Portugal, France, and many other places with their language. This is a common trend. Does he know why they dominated? Does
He
know
probably
why?
does. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you asked Bodie how Latin came to be spoken in, say, the Iberian Peninsula, he would say that because the Romans conquered the Iberian Peninsula. I think he knows that. Kip, you wanna?
Yeah. These are basic examples. It gets more complicated. I will commend Bodie on the correct usage of a semicolon or at this point. After reading some of the migrations of people in chapter 17 of this volume, after reading some of the migrations of the people,
No,
you
sorry.
have to go back. I was just making sure I didn't misread this.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy sentence that should never have been written.
After reading some of the migrations of people in chapter 17 of this volume and seeing where people groups went, mixing, conquering,
And migrations.
what
Why?
is this sentence? It's a paragraph, right? Am I reading a paragraph?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Bodie.
Okay,
Bodie.
I'm gonna. All right, no, stop. Okay, go back because I feel like I need to get through this. All right. After reading some of the migrations of people in chapter 17 of this volume and seeing where people groups went, mixing, conquering, and migrations,
And
the
migration.
reader will see that many languages have mixed, been lost, or otherwise had something similar happen.
Ominous
Sometimes
ellipse.
repeatedly.
Bodie, what is the sentence, my guy?
I don't know what's going on!
Bodie, it's not that expensive to get an editor, right? It's not that hard. Just get an
You also
editor.
have to recognize your need for an editor, which
Like
I
how-
don't think
Yeah.
he does.
If you even just proofread your own stuff,
Right.
this sentence wouldn't happen, would it?
No, look, after reading... How about after reading about some of the migrations of people...
How do we fix this?
in chat. Well, here we go. After reading about some of the migrations of people in chapter 17 of this volume and seeing where those people, put in those, went. Now, he's starting a list of things that should all be similar. So we should say mixing, conquering, and migrating.
And migrating.
Yes, and migrating.
The reader will see
The reader will see.
that. And then been lost or otherwise had something similar happen. Just been lost, get rid of it. Been lost or significantly changed, maybe. And then you don't need the ellipsis there.
You don't need the ellipsis.
Just say, just put a
like,
comma.
I don't know what that...
It's just ominous. It's
What
just
does
it's
that
just there to
mean?
make
It
you
is
feel
ominous.
uneasy. Yeah, it's an ominous ellipsis.
feels like it, right?
Yeah,
That's a good band name, by the way. Ominous Ellipsis.
it is. And then so
Yeah.
you just get a comma there, and sometimes repeatedly. It's not a hard sentence to rewrite if you know, if you just know English. Which actually,
Well,
that
the thing is probably a lot of this is him speaking, and his brain isn't, constructing it well when he's speaking it out loud.
As he's
When he
speaking out
writes it
loud,
down,
sometimes he accidentally
follows
words.
it because he's thinking about it conceptually.
Mhm.
I'm trying to be generous. I shouldn't
I'm
be.
sorry. Annoying. Go ahead, Vish. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
No, I'm done. It's fine.
Annoying. I just after this one made me snicker. Annoying newsletters of profoundly sloppy text says proofreading leads to atheism.
Yes. Dapper, I think you should read this next bit.
Okay, I'll read this next bit. Constructed languages. Another aspect of languages is the creativity of man. We are made in the image of God, after all. If God can create languages, why can't man make them up?
Just make them up.
I mean, people.
Oh.
In fact, we have. For those who are familiar with the popular television show Star Trek, well, first I want to point out that there was no Klingon in the show Star Trek at all. There was no language there. There was a make-believe language in the show called Klingon. No, there wasn't. No, there goddamn wasn't. The first show, the first show to actually use comprehensible Klingon,
it's a movie, right?
was, well, if you want to go with shows, the first one was Enterprise. It took until Enterprise for there to be a TV show where the Klingon wasn't just gibberish. It did happen in Star Trek 3.
No.
It happened in
Enterprise supremacy.
So Star Trek's 3, 5, and 6 had Klingon. That was actually like comprehensible. But until Enterprise, which by the way, Enterprise still screwed it up a whole bunch. But like they tried. Like there's one bit where it's actually one of the first. Remember that episode where like there's a colonist dealing with the Klingon raiders who come by periodically?
Mm-hmm.
And in one scene, the captain of the Klingon raiding crew, he says something into his communicator in Klingon, and they all beam up. Well, what he said was "beam me up" instead of "beam us up," which is a mistake, right? They got the verb wrong. Okay, whatever, but it was still a try. And if you were a Klingon speaker, you understood that he said "beam me up" at least. Like that was actually Klingon. And it wasn't until Discovery that Star Trek writers on a show actually started hiring people to check the Klingon and to give dialect coaching help to the actors. So
Beam Wing says Vishanti has faith of the heart. Yes, I do.
Wasn't there?
Nothing's gonna bend or break me.
Wasn't there already a significant amount of Klingon by like the fourth or the fifth season of TNG?
No, TNG consistently uses gibberish instead of actually using Klingon.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, they just make up sounds that sound kind of Klingon-y. Yep. Based on a mythical group of beings called Klingon.
It's like
a
tongues.
mythical group of beings?
Humans made up that language too, eh?
Mythical. I mean, I'm sure the Klingons appreciate that, but no,
they're just fictional.
Myth.
Yeah, they're just fictional. Jeez.
But guys, you're not reading this. You're not reading this through the Bodie lens, where myth means the same thing.
Oh, of course.
Oh, that's a good
as
point.
Fiction.
I hate that so
right?
much.
In his estimation, this is the same thing.
Ugh. Okay, yeah, you're right, and I hate it. So what happened? A creative person named Mark Okren. This sounds like it's being written by an 8-year-old.
Yep.
A creative person named Mark Okren. You could give him the doctor. He has a doctorate in linguistics.
Why don't you call him? He's a linguist, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a professional
Right?
linguist. His professional work focuses on Mesoamerican and South American native languages, which is one of the reasons why Klingon has a weird word order and also double marking for arguments on verbs. Because that happens as an aerial phenomenon in South American languages.
And
Sorry,
he imported some phonemes from Nahuatl.
Yes,
which
he did.
I quite
Guys.
appreciate.
Guys, sorry. Cat T said that Bodhi is a Klingon mythicist.
I guess.
Lieutenant Fitz of Rage says, Dapper Dinosaur said they used the wrong verb, but I think he meant pronoun. I did not mean pronoun. In fact, that sentence only has a verb in it. It does not have a pronoun in it. Because, as I just said, Klingon uses double marking on verbs for their arguments. So, take that.
Actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coming at me trying to correct my Klingon.
I'm very excited to finish this sentence and paragraph.
A creative person named Mark Okren came up with the language for use on the show. Nope, it was for use on Star Trek 3. And developed into a full-fledged language The degree to which it's a full-fledged language varies based on your opinion. And people have now learned it and communicate with it, using it. Sorry, yeah, that is true. This is not the first time something like that has happened. These are called constructed languages, or planned, or artificial languages. I prefer constructed, but that's okay. Perhaps the most famous example of this is Esperanto, which is now an international language with native speakers born into it. That's true. Good job, Bodie. We'll take a drink.
Is there actually still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can find the occasional
Where?
native Esperantist around the world. It just
Where are they
occurs.
speaking? I guess in
Primarily online now.
households.
Yeah, households.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the parents of a kid exclusively speak Esperanto, that kid's going to learn Esperanto.
Right. Here we go. Because we're also doing the other in this next paragraph. Sorry, I'm reading ahead, but we're also doing this thing too, where we're integrating computer languages into
One thing I want to point out,
because it's called a language, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. DNA too, guys.
Casual Sleeping Dragon has said, "What is double marking?" Okay, so verbs have things called arguments, right? They are words associated with the verb's action, whether it be the person who does the action, or the thing that does the action, or the thing the action is done to, or in some cases, the thing for whose benefit the action is performed, right? So normally in most languages, including Klingon and English, we have the subject, object, and the indirect object. And the subject is usually what's marked on verbs in those types of languages. In languages that have more of an ergative absolutive, sometimes the absolutive ends up being marked instead of the ergative. Doesn't matter. That's a little bit too far afield. So,
I'm sorry.
Most languages...
Annoying newsletters. Oh, sorry. You finish. I thought you were done.
Most languages mark the subject of the verb on the verb if they're a language that has any kind of inflection on verbs, right? So, for instance, in Spanish, right, like there's a difference between quiero and quieres. That's what the subject is, right? Everything else about that verb is the same. It's the same tense, it's the same aspect, it's the same mood. But one is first person singular subject, and the other one is second person singular. Second person singular subject. Well, Klingon has a set of prefixes on verbs that mark both the subject and the object of the verb. So that's double marking because both arguments are marked. So, for instance, if we take a verb like we'll go with pip because it sounds like Kip, who is our guest here.
Yeah.
All right. Pip is a verb that means hit. If I say jip pip, it means I hit with no noted object. If I say bip pip, it means I hit it or him or her. If I say cup pip, it means I hit you. And so that prefix marks both arguments on the verb. Hence, it is double marked.
Are you done now? Because
Yes.
I have to, annoying newsletters of profoundly sloppy text is just cracking me up today. They say, is your language fully fledged? Mine's molten.
Mine's goodness. All right. Programmers have developed languages to work with computers, Fortran, Basic, C, HTML. Why does C get quotation marks? Whatever.
I don't know why it gets.
I don't know.
But also, Anonymous Pi is pointing out like they're supposed to be all capitalized. Basic should be capitalized, all of it, just like HTML is.
And Fortran too.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. I guess I wouldn't know. And so on. Okay, here's the thing, right? Computer languages are fundamentally not the same thing as constructed or natural languages because they're not designed for humans to communicate with each other. You couldn't have a conversation in Fortran. I promise. You can't do it.
Right, imagine what that would look like.
The closest you could come would be to speak out loud a Fortran code that would print words in another language, but then all you're doing is just having a convoluted version of that conversation in that target language that you're printing with Fortran. You cannot have a conversation in Fortran. It's not a language in that sense.
Gracious.
It's a way to give instructions to machines. Many times there are code systems which are like a type of encoded language used in war. Though that is just what it. Sure.
That's right.
Hey, fun fact: plain text is also an encoding of language.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that he's basically just used the word for its definition in this sentence.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That a code
Bodie, what is a
is an
tautology
encoded-
hodge?
there is Morse code and sign languages. Okay, well, Morse code is just a way
That
to
doesn't work the same way at all.
yeah, Morse code is just a different way to
not a
encode
language.
an alphabet.
Yeah.
Sign languages are languages, so we'll give them that one. Sign languages are in fact languages. I even developed. Oh God.
Even I developed
Even I developed.
Even I.
written
developed a written code language that I have been able to readily read and write since grade school. So, okay, great. Bodie.
I'll
So
bet
I
you
bet- wait, wait, wait,
$1,000
wait.
it was
He
just
just-
a shitty way to write English.
Yeah, it was.
Yes,
It was.
I'm like
I would bet $1,000 that this code is just a simple substitution cipher
Yeah, I was going
For
to say
the
it's a cheater
alphabet.
cipher.
for the
Yes.
for specifically the
Yes.
Latin alphabet. I
But
bet
I'm
it
willing
even
to bet.
has two different letters for the digraphs that correspond to the same graphemes that he uses for those letters in isolation. I bet he doesn't even have like a TH graph.
I was going to say or vowels. I bet you anything
Mhm.
he did not compensate for vowels.
Yep.
Which is something those are things that I did when I was 10.
Yeah, so I am very
So-
confident that it is just a one-for-one substitution cipher for the Latin
Yep.
alphabet. Which, look, if you're a
And he
kid in grade
probably-
school,
Oh, you know what it probably is? I bet you anything. I bet you he just reversed the alphabet.
it could be that. I wouldn't bet on that, but it's perfectly reasonable.
It's
But
Bodie.
here's the thing,
Come
right?
on.
If you're a kid in grade school, inventing a substitution cipher for the Latin alphabet is kind of cool, and it's neat, and you can have fun with that with your friends. To be a man in what I believe is his 40s, bragging about the fact that he did that when he was in grade school in a book he's
right.
publishing, I'm feeling embarrassed for him. I mean,
This has very big, like, Ralph Wiggum,
As-
my cat's breath smells like cat
Exactly.
food
As
energy.
my good friend, the Dr. Joshua Bowen, is
I didn't know Dr. Josh was
famous for
Maltese.
saying, what?
I didn't know Dr. Josh
So
was
you have
Maltese.
two friends.
Or
I now have 3.
oh, now you
apparently,
okay, we're up to
because
3.
mine is my friend too.
Okay.
So I have 3. But as my good friend, Dr. Joshua Bowen, is famous of saying, this is not the flex you think it is, Bodie.
Really, it's not. Oh my god. Oh, okay.
Just imagine showing up to a debate and him going, oh yeah, well, when I was in grade school, I made up a code language. And I can still read it.
The
Hey,
creativity of
Bodie,
man.
that's good for you, buddy.
Our
Why don't you roll
Babel
and play now?
confirmed!
The creativity of man could indeed accelerate the issue of languages since the time of Babel. That doesn't even mean anything. What is this, Bodie?
The issue of languages.
Is he saying the issue or the problem or the topic?
Well, he definitely
Or
doesn't mean
issue as in the giving forth?
he doesn't know that definition of issue. I
Or,
can guarantee
or the
you, Bodie doesn't know
discussion
that
or the
definition.
scholarship.
I don't know.
I want to know what he says about isolates.
All right, do you want me to read it, or do you want to switch it up?
I
Okay,
don't mind. I don't care.
I'll go for it, I guess.
Uh,
Language
it's my
isolates.
turn.
Okay, fine.
Language isolates. There are many languages that have no relationship to any language family that we know of. They are called language isolates.
Weird punctuation aside, he is correct. We will take a drink.
It's true. Evolutionary presuppositions may be at fault for the classification of some of these.
What?
So it's a mistake, y'all. It's a mistake.
Guys, the only
In North America, they assume primitive native man. This feels like a pejorative.
it is, but
Came-
he's trying to ascribe it to scientists, not to himself.
Yes.
He is saying, I don't think that they were primitives. I think they were
Right.
advanced societies. But these evolutionists, they think they were
Sure,
primitive.
he does.
Also, I just want to point
They-
out the only reason you think that Euskara or Basque isn't related to Spanish is because you believe in evolution. If you were a good creationist, you would
Yeah.
realize that Basque is just a different Romance language.
That's it. That's it.
Forget
And
the whole.
Sumerian is just another like Southwest
It's
Asian
just
Semitic
it's,
language.
that's
Yeah.
it. It's Southwest Semitic.
Look,
You got it.
Ignore the fact that they don't even have the
southeast.
same alignment system for their sentences
No.
because they're
No.
both
It doesn't
split
matter.
ergative.
It doesn't matter.
No.
We haven't discovered it yet. Doesn't mean it's not there.
All right,
right?
real quick,
I think that's where we're going here.
We have 5 gifted memberships from Eris. Thank you very much. So while you, yeah, we'll just take the 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm just hydrating with this now. That's all it is.
Okay. So
At least
I'm
you're not chugging
continuing.
an entire bottle of Voss water all at once.
okay, I'm going to continue.
Okay.
In North America, they assume primitive native man came basically via one route across the Bering Sea land bridge.
There were also
When it
there was also groups of islanders coming into South America from the west, but whatever. It's mostly
Right.
the Bering Sea bridge.
That happened
Sure.
pretty late, though.
Yeah, that's true.
when
too.
it was open due to an ice age, and so all the languages should match up in North and South America.
Oh my god.
When
no.
they do not match up, they usually default to an isolate language. Well,
Oh
meh.
my god. Okay, Bodie, you're
Though.
Oh. No, I have to. Okay.
Okay.
Bodie. Bodie.
Okay.
The idea behind isolates is not that they literally have no connection to other languages. It's that we can't demonstrate one. We cannot demonstrate their membership in any other family that we have been able to reconstruct. Language families, we can't really reconstruct them much farther back than like 7, 8, maybe 10,000 years. Which means if something happened before that with language families, we probably will never know about it. Because the changes have been so significant and happened so long ago that we probably can't connect them anymore, right? So, is Basque an isolate in the sense that people with no language woke up one day and decided to invent Basque? No, that's crazy.
No.
That's not what happened.
Yes.
Basque had relatives in the past. It doesn't now. And it probably does have connections to known language families, but they're too far in the past for us to make a confident statement about them. This has nothing to do with evolutionary assumptions. It's just what you can and cannot demonstrate based on the data. When linguists say, hey, this is an isolate, all they mean is we don't have the data to connect this language to any other language. That's it. It doesn't mean it isn't. It doesn't mean it wasn't.
I'm so possibly irrationally so angry that he's like, they assume primitive man came across basically via the Bering land bridge. And I'm like, bro, do you even understand that there's an entire field called archaeology?
He does.
Where this has been
but he rejects most
borne
of it.
out through evidence.
Yeah. For $5,
I would like to see evidence that the new world, what we now call the new world, wasn't populated almost entirely via the land bridge.
Yeah, what does Bodie think is the route that people took to get to North America? Actually, that would be a good question. How does he think people got to North America? Because he also thinks that people had to get here.
But doesn't he? Wait, doesn't he think that they all just happened to be in this space when the continents broke apart and drifted?
I mean, he thinks that place is basically Mesopotamia.
They just rode the landmass into
No,
no,
were definitely seafaring cultures.
No, because Bodie thinks that the continental drifting around happened during the flood, and that after the flood, the continents were basically in their current locations. Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the general AIG
flood, the water levels were lower.
Yep.
So
he has to get people
just
to
maybe
North
there's
America
a
somehow.
bunch of land bridges.
Maybe. And he does think that there was an ice age after the flood. So the thing is, like, the Bering Strait idea, as long as you condense down the timeline, fits in perfectly well with Bodie's ideas about how humanity came about. He just apparently just doesn't like it for some reason, and I don't know why that is. There's a lot of stuff about that with creationism, where it's like, this doesn't have to be a problem for you, but you
it's
make
fine.
it a problem.
You can work this into your model,
but they
right?
just don't. It's the same thing with dinosaurs and birds, right? There's nothing about young Earth creationism that would be in any way troubled
if
birds were dinosaurs.
like it would fit
Right.
with the
'Cause they think-
rapid
Just
rapid evolution.
No,
wouldn't
it doesn't even have to do that, right? Like, creationists think that whales are mammals. They don't have any problem with that. They're just a weird group of mammals. Okay, so just say birds are a weird group of dinosaurs and be done with it. It doesn't matter.
All right. Wow.
It's perfectly fine. And they just don't.
Wow.
To be fair, a few of them do, like
Yeah.
Marcus Ross
Wow.
does so. But Goop23 for $5 says, the only evolutionists were anti-native, famously not the pre-Darwin Christians who colonized all their land and tried to convert them all. Yeah, there is that too.
Yeah.
When it comes to the excuse used for the mistreatment of natives in the Americas, it wasn't evolution. It was primarily Christianity. And you can,
Yep.
and Bodie, you know what? If you want to tell me that that is not what your theology would have you do, and you reject that on the basis of your own personal theology, that's cool. I don't disagree. Maybe that is the case for you. But that doesn't change the fact that the excuse primarily used by the invading colonizers for the mistreatment of the native populations was primarily Christianity. Granted, not your version of Christianity, but still, it was an evolution. It was a belief in Jesus, ultimately. Menegiki Platypus Warlock, who says, for $5, a bunch of Basque preteens came up with a brilliant encoding scheme and kept using it. We should rename isolates to Bodieist constructions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Annoying
With
newsletter
the-
says
with
Columbus
the-
dropped off seed populations in 1492. I'm like, well, he may not have dropped off seed populations, but they definitely dropped off smallpox.
Yeah, although
He did. They
in
did
a
that.
in a
yes.
pre-germ theory era, I'm not going to say that that was something that they did intentionally.
Okay.
They weren't particularly
And-
motivated to do anything about it when they found out.
Well, there's
though.
that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's art and lots of manuscript stuff about like how they completely obliterated cities like Tenochtitlan
Mhm.
with smallpox, and they were like, "Oh, well, you built your city in the middle of the lake, and you're all sick. We're just gonna like wait you out."
I mean,
Yeah.
from a tactical standpoint, not a bad move.
I mean, yeah, technically,
It's not. It's
but
from
yeah,
an
disease
ethical
killed
stand-
millions
Mhm.
of indigenous natives, and so like
Alright.
when you finally get to the rest of the colonial period, they're like, "Wow, there's just not a lot of people living here."
Because they
Gee, I
all
wonder
already
why.
died. Yeah. But before Europeans made it to
All right.
North America, the population of North America was reduced by about 90% by disease.
Hmm.
all right, guys. I'm gonna read Bodie's
All right.
Bodie's solution to
And then we're
this.
going to react to that,
Okay.
and then we're going to be done.
Okay. Though I would suggest these isolates be compared more closely with languages in other parts of the world
Oh my
before
god.
we make them definitive isolates, as they could be
Mhm.
related to language families that came out of Babel, where some of the descendants who spoke the language settled in various parts of the world, including the Americas.
This is just Mormonism with extra steps.
Okay, but here's my question to Bodie. Bodie, what the hell do you think linguists do? Because I'll tell you, trying to find
Yeah,
connections between isolates and known language families is one of the things that linguists write papers about. What the hell do you think is the job of a linguist? That is literally something that happens all the time in the linguistics literature.
Yes.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly, does he think that
Hmm.
someone just hasn't compared Quechua to Sumerian yet?
He does. He thinks that he's. I'm sure he is convinced that we're just suppressing the truth in unrighteousness.
In unrighteousness.
It's
What about the Brazilian Amazon tribes? Like, they haven't been interacted with for a very, very long time. Shouldn't they be speaking something closer to like what diverged after Babel?
I-
Why don't we test that? Somebody send him down there. Just
Yep.
make sure
They're
to give him
speaking
his malaria
Sumerian.
shot.
It is just crazy to me that Bodie would say something like that. It's like, I don't even know. It's like saying, why don't physicists ever try to find out what the mass of these new particles that they're discovering is? They do. What do you think is the job of a physicist?
I'm starting to wonder if Bodie just maybe has no idea that there is such a thing as linguists. I mean, he called Mark, what's his name? the inventor of Klingon, the guy
Mark
who
Ogrand. He just called him a clever person.
Mark, he just called him a clever person.
Yeah.
He's just a creative guy.
By the way,
He's a
I'm-
Like
creative
me,
guy.
like me, Bodie Hodge is a creative guy who made his own language in grade school.
By which he means just a simple cipher for the Latin alphabet.
So, Annoying Newsletter says the Tower Bible was Aztec. I mean, we already saw that he thinks that
did see
Mayan
that, yes.
pyramids
All right, guys.
are ziggurats.
We got to wrap up. We're gonna try to do it pretty quickly because I want to get over to my Discord server. We're gonna do some Power Rangers, and then I'm probably gonna go lay down. So, real quick, you got to be quick about it. Vishanti, got anything coming up that people need to know about in the next 5 to 7 days?
When I get it going, I'll put it on my community tab.
Cool. Yep, gotta be quick.
I'm on holidays, but I have to say something. I am excited
Okay.
because this afternoon, in a couple of hours, I am going to meet Dave from Toast to Toast fame,
Nice.
and we're having dinner.
Oh,
All right.
So I have to figure out how to get
Nice.
to the craft beer market in downtown Calgary.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
tell
take.
Dave I said I send my regards.
I will deliver your regards.
So on Tuesday, we are doing a New Year's special. That will be starting at 8 p.m. Pacific. So not the normal time that we start, which is usually that would have been around 5. We're starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, and my plan is to go for 4 hours. And we are going to. I'll have people who I will send the link to. They can come in and drop out if they want to. But yeah, instead of doing Camp with Bent, we're going to do a 4-hour New Year's special. We will hit New Year's for every time zone in the continental or the contiguous United States. Sorry, Alaska. Sorry, Hawaii. Sorry, parts of other parts of the world. I'm only one dinosaur. I'm only going to stream for about 4 hours. So, if you're like, oh,
Also,
Dapper, I'm in Sumatra and you didn't do my New Year. Yeah, okay, sorry.
I get this question a lot, and I'm going to try to answer it once for all for the next 5 minutes. If people want to find my channel, they don't have to type in the search box. You can go to youtube.com/@Vishanti. It is the simplest thing.
Mhm.
You do not need to type in the search box because you'll get a bunch of other unrelated stuff. Go to the URL bar, youtube.com/@Vishanti. That's it. It is very simple.
All right. So that's Tuesday. Then on Thursday, I am premiering Casey Luskin, Alleged Cannibal Pervert. Because Casey Luskin, look, he might be a cannibal who also is wanted for crimes against children in Thailand. I'm not saying he is.
Wow.
I'm just saying he might be. Sources have reported
That's amazing.
that might be the case.
Oh dear.
It has been said.
Right. So there's sources out there that are saying things like that about Casey Luskin. I'm not going to cite where they're found or who said it. I'm just saying sources out there have said this about Casey Luskin.
Boy.
I don't personally believe it. I just have to report that. I'm just asking questions, basically, right? Casey Luskin, are you actually a cannibal? I don't know. It's just a little weird if you think about it that he might be. It's a little suspicious.
A little bit. No.
Then on Friday, we should finally be having the next episode of Star Trek Lexington. Is going to be a special episode. We're changing things up a little bit for that episode. So if you are someone who's a fan of that show that we do over on Top Hats Off, come hang out with us. It's going to be interesting. Let's see. That will be at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, and the Casey Luskin will be at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then next Saturday, my plan is to do another episode of this. So we're going to continue on reading through this, where Bodie apparently doesn't even know what a linguist's job is. I think he thinks that what a linguist does is like what your high school English teacher did, which is like to fix your grammar. That's what I think Bodie thinks a linguist does, is like correct people's grammar, which is almost exactly the opposite of what a linguist actually does. So
Yeah, they tend not to be prescriptivists.
Yeah, it's basically
Funny enough.
Yeah, descriptivism is like the thing about linguistics. Linguistics is a science about observing how languages is being used and documenting that. And like, that's the opposite of prescriptivism. You can't go around telling people like, wait, actually, you should actually use this like, no, that's not how linguistics
Bodie
works.
probably thinks linguists are the same as English professors.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All right, everybody. We're going to be heading over to the my Discord in just a little bit. If you're a channel member or a patron, you can hang out with us. We're going to watch a few episodes of Power Rangers Super Samurai. I think that's right. We're going to watch 5 of them on 1.25 speed because I want to get through Super Samurai as quickly as possible because, is it rough. So, bye, everybody.
Hagler Sameach.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovend, Ferravara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Eleron Teller, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Wallace, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.